supporting tools, like the printouts you made, and also because there were both words, so there was audible communication, there was also a lot of visual, that made it accessible to all the students. So that was really good.
Yeah. I also don't know if I told you or if you saw, but I pulled, not pulled, but I like went up to Gerard and I went up to Amaya and I gave him that option. Amaya wasn't a scriber, or a scribe. I originally like purposely made her a detective because I know that writing is not her strength necessarily. But remember when you pulled Gerard from that team to the other, and then nobody wanted to be the scribe, so he became the scribe, and I was like, you know, you can audio record yourself if you don't want to write. That's fine. That's an option. Also to make it like not strenuous on him.
Yes. Yeah, that was really good. In the end, somebody else in his group took over to writing, but that's fine. But that was totally fine.
That.
Yeah. I think there was the issue was that the list that I had given you included 2 kids that weren't even here. So I think
Julia.
Julia and another Louis.
Louis, yeah.
That was last year's Louis, yeah. So that was my mistake. But anyways, okay. Yeah, it ended up working out where they kind of took on roles that they were more or less comfortable with.
Yeah.
So in terms of this, I mean, I would say you're definitely proficient in this for this lesson. In proficient, it says candidate links the student's prior knowledge to the lesson while recognizing student misconceptions and correcting them. I think that your questioning that you did kind of helps make these corrections, you know, making, in case they had the misconception that stories are simply fairy tales and like only novels versus something that could be very much linked to real life. Yeah. And also the importance of, right, the misconception, perhaps some of them having the misconception that stories are just for fun. But like you really use anchoring it into how powerful a story could be, especially what the consequences could be if they're not told.
Right.
And you devise, it says, may devise many lessons to fill in the holes of background knowledge. But I mean, the thing is, you're going to be continuing on this topic anyways as we progress. So there'll be opportunities to keep like building knowledge. So yeah, in terms of the next part of the standard 4, which is content knowledge 2, which says instructional resources. Does the candidate use appropriate instructional resources that are comprehensive, accurate, and appropriate for students? In this case, yeah, this was also really well done. I mean, I think in this case, yeah, I would lean more towards outstanding in the fact that there was a lot of, yeah, like I mean, said before, like there was a lot of visuals, there was a lot of potential for writing or not, or like basically using the communication method that they're most comfortable in, even language that they're more comfortable in. So whether that be, yeah, whether they wanted to write, like the different roles really allowed for that. So that was really, really good. In terms of application of content, standard 5, project-based learning. Does the candidate design and implement student projects to guide students in analyzing the complexities of an issue? I mean, I think obviously as this was a lesson, it wasn't a project. These did have tasks to do for sure. But I mean, the point is that there was an interesting raise of the kind of issues, the world issues there, and they were really connected to those. So, I mean, in terms of like, I mean, there's a lot of kind of like personal opinions that started coming out in those topics that you put up towards the end of like real world stories and real world issues. And that really sparked their interest. And so, you know, you did in fact guide them into analyzing those issues in many respects, or at least raising a lot of interest in them. And so, I mean, I'm a little bit, I don't know what to do with this one, just since it wasn't obviously project-based. So do you have to do another, like something like that's more project-based with this information next?
Candidate designs and study projects to guide student in analyzing the complexity of an issue or question. I mean, by project, yeah, because I mean, a project would take more than a lesson, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Encompassing thing.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if, well, yeah, I mean, maybe there is some kind of project that can come out of that that interest that you triggered in them,
Hmm.
like in a next kind of phase somehow.
I
'Cause
think
think
maybe
they
the
were,
presidential campaign thing could be a project, no? Like it all ties into like, because it's perspective, it's gonna be biased, it's gonna be written. They're gonna practice all those competencies that we were talking about earlier, oral, written. That could be like a little mini project that
yeah.
we're working
How
towards.
come this part of the standard wasn't, because it wasn't there when we were reading through the standards last week when we were looking at your lesson recap?
I don't know.
Remember? Like, remember we looked at the standards and we're like making sure that everything was included? Like this didn't say anything about project-based learning.
Hmm.
So what do we do about this one?
Students critical thinking. You mean like for it to be an outstanding project?
Well, just to be anything. I mean, they obviously haven't done project-based learning at all for this, for your lesson, right? So I'm saying we can definitely do it as a next step. But in terms of like, the thing is, I mean, this was not, remember how we were looking at the standards last week to make sure that you were covering them? This wasn't on there. Do you want to double check? Maybe we missed it or
It is
what?
there, it just doesn't come up as like, it doesn't come, so I was showing you the actual standard, what it's called and what it says it is. Like candidate understands how to connect concepts, to use different perspectives, to engage students. You're looking at the rubric now. So the rubric is speaking in more detail, I guess. That's why we didn't look at the
Do you have
actual
access to this, but like in advance?
Yes, I do.
Oh,
Yeah, I do. Can I design and implement the student projects? Okay. For me, I guess the student project, as far as like a project, I guess I could go, was for them to come up with, that's why I gave them those roles and for them to kind of analyze those pictures. I was looking at as like a mini in-class project, not like as a full blown, because I mean, I only have one lesson, but I don't know what we can do with that.
so like, okay. So this, in this case, we're saying project is like that little, the activity.
Yeah, like
Okay.
analyzing the pictures, getting together, and then
Okay,
yeah,
let me
I
just,
don't-
okay, let me read this 1 second. Can develop some more students.
yeah.
Mhm. Well, if we take the activity, I mean, definitely you gave them the opportunity to analyze the
Mhm.
question using various perspectives for sure. How would you say, let's see, for autistic students, and what does that mean? How do you interpret while teaching students to use appropriate technology?
So I think at the end, you know, when I think it was Raj that was saying how in order to like get a better perspective, we ended on the note of how to, when you're searching for information on the internet or when you're trying to find out any story perspective, it's really important to look for information not just from one side but through all sides. I don't know if that's so much like, I think that could be related to technology in the sense of like, don't be like, use the tools that you have to get the wider picture of a perspective and don't let the media just show you one little side. And that's when I tied in with the bias option.
Okay.
But
so what's your opinion? Where do you think you fall for this standard? Do you think it's proficient or outstanding?
I think it's proficient because I didn't have them actually like, I didn't have technology be like the center of attention. It was mostly they're analyzing a problem.
Yeah. I would say the one thing that says the difference, one of the differences here is like varied disciplines and cross-disciplinary skills. So yeah, I would agree. That it's proficient as well. In fact, that might actually be a nice way to do it, is like maybe you can tell me where you think you lie in each standard, and then
Mm.
your examples of which, and then we can go
Yeah,
like
that
that.
might be, we can compromise on like what we both think.
Yeah,
And
totally. Yeah,
cool.
I'm comfortable with that. Okay, so standard 5, application of content. Application to real world problems and interdisciplinary themes. Does the candidate develop and implement lessons that are related to real world problems, relevant to students and interdisciplinary in nature? What do you think?
That was what I really focused on. So to be honest, I wasn't so focused on the technology bit as much, but I really tried to tie in like a global perspective to it, in the sense of, I mean, it's interdisciplinary because the way you view anything in this world, if you just have one tiny perspective versus really trying to figure out the whole story in anything, not just in writing, but in life, you can have a really skewed vision. And yeah, even with goal setting or anything, if you just have one tiny perspective rather than the whole picture, it's kind of like it's hard to go after what you want. And so I think it could be interdisciplinary.
Okay, and do you think where would you rate yourself on this? Between proficient or outstanding? So proficient says candidate develops and implement lessons that are related to real world problems that are relevant to students and introduce interdisciplinary themes in selected content lessons to make them meaningful to students. So I would say yes for that for sure. Let's see outstanding. In addition to achieving all aspects of proficient 3, so I guess that last one, candidate engages students in actively applying content knowledge to real world problems in local, national, or global contexts, making meaningful learning experiences while integrating current interdisciplinary themes.
I mean, I think within the capabilities that I can do that lesson, I think it is a proficient because it mixes, it mixed history, like topics of social, emotional, like racism, things that are really sensitive and that can trigger sensitive things. At the same time, they tie in with history. I mean, they tie in with the whole perspective of writing and how it's not just a story, it's like taking them into real life and having them have this comparison between, oh, this is a story and it's also real life.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's meaningful and it's a bit interdisciplinary.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so then do you have any, I don't know, comments for the other areas that we talked about? Because I know I just kind of told you what I think. Do you agree with my opinion?
No, I do. I think that I agree with the grades and the notes that we talked about. Because to be honest, like I know I didn't focus so much on them using technology, and maybe I can make that more of a focus for next time, especially with the whole presidential campaign. Maybe it would be interesting, like we said, for them to watch or to try to find different clips that are biased and have them be more technology involved next time.
Okay.
So that could be interesting. But
Okay.
yeah, I agree.
Cool. Awesome. So great. Okay. But yeah, overall, I would say much like a strong lesson for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you really intrigued them in the topic. So I think that'd be really great to harness that in like the next round of however you choose to do it. I know we kind of looked at a couple options this morning. So yeah, I think like knowing that they really do get kind of intrigued and inspired from those type of topics, that'd be a really great hook for a future lesson for sure, or a future like mini project, or however you want to do the next output or whatever.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna start prepping. I mean, if we have time, there is my next video standards. But the thing is, I haven't even started prepping for this lesson. So it's assessment. Can you see standard 6 on your page right now, or does it only let you see for the ones that I'm being assessed?
Let me see. I'm also having a bit of difficulty with my mouse. Hold on. Yeah, I could see them. Standard 6, you say?
7, 8, and 9, I believe I'm gonna do next. Yeah. 6, 7, and 8. Sorry, no, 6, 7, and 8 are the next ones. So it's assessment.
Yeah.
And